Lena used to love the sound of English. When she was younger, she'd listen to songs, watch movies, and dream of speaking just like the actors. She imagined herself confidently ordering coffee in New York or giving a presentation in London. But now English felt heavy. Every lesson was a battle. Every grammar rule a maze. Every word a wall she couldn't climb. She sat at her desk every night, same time, same routine. Open notebook. Rewrite yesterday's notes. Try again. She tried listening. She tried speaking. She tried reading out loud, but no matter how hard she worked, it felt like nothing changed. Her pronunciation was still awkward. Her vocabulary still too small. Her confidence shrinking. Sometimes she'd close her eyes and ask herself, why am I doing this? What's the point if I'm not getting better? And yet the next day, she showed up again. Maybe it was habit. Maybe it was hope. Maybe it was just the fear of giving up completely. She didn't know anymore. All she knew was that English, the language she once loved, now made her feel tired. Lena wasn't the worst student in class, but she definitely wasn't the best. Every time she heard her classmates speak, something inside her sank. Anna, the girl who had only studied for 3 months, could speak without pausing. Her accent, so clear, so natural. There was also Min, a quiet guy who always got the grammar exercises right. Always, Lena would sit there watching their mouths move effortlessly while her own thoughts tangled up in silence. She tried not to compare, she really did. But when someone speaks smoothly beside you and you can barely finish a sentence, it's hard not to feel small. Very small. She started to dread speaking in class. Even simple questions felt like traps. What did you do last weekend? Can you describe your hometown? Her answers came out broken, slow and shaky. The more she tried, the worse it felt, like her words were betraying her. She began to think, maybe I'm just not smart enough. Maybe English just isn't for me. Other people are made for this. I'm not. Those thoughts, they weren't loud, they were quiet, but they stayed, and they grew. Until one day, as she packed up her bag, a single sentence escaped her lips, so soft she barely heard herself say it. I don't want to do this anymore. It was a cloudy Wednesday. The kind of day when everything feels a little heavier. Lena stayed behind after class. Her classmates had already left, chatting and laughing as they disappeared into the hallway. She sat alone, staring at her notebook pages filled with scribbles, corrections, and question marks. She didn't even pretend to study anymore. She just sat, her shoulders slumped, her hands cold, eyes tired. Then came the whisper, not loud, not angry, just honest. I don't want to do this anymore. Miss Hall, the teacher, had been quietly organizing her materials. She looked up. Lena. Lena froze. She didn't think anyone had heard. Are you okay? There was a long pause. Lena didn't answer right away. She didn't know what to say. She wasn't crying, but her eyes felt heavy, the way they do when you've carried too much for too long. Finally, she spoke. I just feel like I'll never be good at this. Miss Hall didn't respond immediately. She walked over, gently, pulled out the chair beside Lena, and sat down. There was no judgment in her eyes. No shock. Just calm. Can I tell you something? She asked softly. Lena nodded. Then Ms. Hall said something so simple, so short, it didn't feel like a motivational quote. It didn't feel like a lesson. It just felt true. If you never start, you'll never improve. That was it. Just one sentence. But in that moment, it landed. Like a key fitting into a lock. Like a breath after holding it in too long. And for the first time in weeks, Lena looked up, not with defeat, but with possibility. Lena repeated the sentence in her head. If you never start, you'll never improve. It wasn't magic. It didn't suddenly fix her grammar. It didn't give her a new accent. But it did something else. Something more important. It gave her permission to not be perfect, to be messy, to struggle to learn slowly, because that's what learning really is. She thought about the first day she tried to speak English, how nervous she had been, how she could barely introduce herself. And now she could hold basic conversations. Now she could write a short paragraph. Now she could understand jokes in English movies sometimes. She had improved, but she was too busy comparing to notice. That night, Lina walked home in the rain, but she didn't feel heavy anymore. The raindrops felt soft. The cold air felt fresh. She didn't open her books that night. She didn't need to. Instead, she opened an old notebook, the first one she ever used for English. She flipped through the pages. Misspelled words, crooked sentences, doodles in the margins. It was imperfect, and it was beautiful because it showed her something. She was not in the same place anymore. She had moved. She had grown quietly, slowly, but surely. The next day, when Ms. Hall entered the classroom, Lina was already there, sitting tall, notebook open. She wasn't faster than Anna. She didn't get all the answers like Min, but she was present. She was ready. And when Ms. Hall greeted the class, Lina smiled. She was learning again not just the language, but how to believe in herself. Sometimes all it takes is one sentence to change how you see everything. For Lina, it wasn't a long lecture. It wasn't a perfect explanation. It was just a reminder. If you never start, you'll never improve. That sentence stayed with her, not just in her English notebook, but in her heart, because learning a language isn't just about grammar or vocabulary. It's about showing up even when you feel like giving up. It's about forgiving yourself when you forget a word and celebrating when you finally remember one. It's about courage, not perfection. Let's review 3 powerful phrases from this story. 1. If you never start, you'll never improve. This is a type 1 conditional sentence. Use it to express cause and effect in real life. If plus present simple, will plus base verb. If you study every day, you'll get better. 2. Every expert was once a beginner. This is a motivational idiom, a great reminder that no one starts perfect, not even native speakers. 3. Don't give up. Your future self is watching this one. It's more than a phrase. It's a mindset. Imagine who you'll become if you just keep going. Your turn. Have you ever felt like Lina, tired, frustrated, ready to quit? Comment below what helps you keep learning when it's hard, and remember, every step counts, even the small ones. Subscribe to Lingora for more stories like this, stories that teach English, but also remind you how strong you really are.